beautiful people. Happy Sunday. I am Coach Yolanda, international spiritual life coach, birth doula, Reiki master teacher, and happy to be here. Happy Sunday. Wherever you are in the world, I pray that you are safe. It is cold in the little state of Delaware, which is why I got my sweats on today. We had two snowstorms last week. And so I'm looking out the window and looks like the ice is melting from the roof. So be safe wherever you are. Whether you are watching live or on the replay, no matter what time you might be watching this, I wish that and hope that and trust that you are safe where you are. This is Mama Meditations. We join every Sunday. We try to join every Sunday at 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And it's called Mama Meditations because it's meditation the way your mama would do it. You know, mamas are not traditional in their delivery. And so, do we really sit and breathe and meditate? Not all the time. I try to get it in there, but for the most part, we're having a dialogue about what's going on in our lives mentally, physically, spiritually, emotionally. And for this year, um, I have been guided to speak about personal power. And so that is why this series is entitled Power 24. And for the next 3 months, January, February, March, we are going to be establishing clarity on where our personal power may be going. For those of us who feel as though we don't want this year to look like last year and the previous years, where we're setting goals, we have visions, there are things that we want to do, and we can't really quite figure out why it's not unfolding or happening for us, or maybe we're distracted, or maybe there are so many things going on in our lives that personal power is not even something that we think about. And so this year, we are going to dedicate our time every Sunday at 1 p.m. to talk about the different ways that we can reconnect to our own personal power. We are all powerful beings, spiritual beings having a temporary human experience. And so, for those of us who want to tap more into the power of our spiritualness, this is what we're doing. And so, for the first 2 weeks of January, we talked about our personal reality. Today, we're going to talk about our mental reality. This is really the essential piece of healing. If you are unsure or unclear of where your mental energy is going, it's going to be very difficult to do any type of healing process. And so this one might take 2 weeks, 3 weeks, 4 weeks. I don't know. We do what we want here in this space. And so we spent 2 weeks talking about our physical reality and why it's important for us to really pay attention to where our energy, our power is going physically. What environments are you in? Where are you health wise? What things have your attention more than other things? Um, Hopefully, you are journaling and still asking the questions, still asking yourself, why am I in these places and spaces that are keeping me away from the life that I desire for myself? All of those kind of questions. So today we're going to talk about our mental reality, but that doesn't mean we forget about the physical realities. Continue to ask yourself and continue to get evidence of where your personal power may be going physically. If you are dealing with things such as an illness, of course, your physical reality is going to look differently than someone else's. If you are a caregiver, and you are dealing with someone else's illness, of course, your physical reality is going to look different. And it may feel like it's taking you away from focusing on yourself, your dreams, your hopes, your vision. And it might. Let us not, pretend that we're not living real life that takes us away from the things that we really love to do. Like today, I would really love to be anywhere else, but because of the physical reality of the snow, my butt is staying home. I have to go to work tomorrow. I would love to go 20 million other places, but because of the physical reality of my life, I must go into particular places and spaces. And so I am not ever going to tell anyone, just abandon all of your responsibilities and just think about where you would be at peace, because that's not realistic. And I know in many new age spiritual spaces, the idea that it's just so easy to pack up everything, move to, some tranquil place, and that life is going to unfold for you in a grand way. That's not everyone's reality, nor does everyone have the privilege to just pack up their life like that and have things change. We all have personal responsibilities that we have to attend to. And so you will never hear Coach Yolanda say, abandon all of those things that you are responsible for and only focus on yourself and only focus on the positive, happy, things that you want to include in your environment. Let us be realistic. As having this temporary human experience where we got to pay bills, we got to love on people, we got to take care of our family members, we have to deal with one another. And that is the reality. But each and every single one of us can take accountability for the nature of our lives, where we find ourselves. And so if you can carve out some time for yourself to really investigate, why do I feel the way that I feel? Why am I in the place that I'm in? Why do I have such, you know, imbalances in my life where I don't feel like I matter? I don't even know what I like. I don't even know what my personal power is. If those are the kind of things that you're feeling, then hopefully you will stick with us through this year. We're going to go slow. It's not going to be a 30-day, 60-day, 90-day fix. When you're talking about healing things, take your time, your pace, so that you can discover what works well for you and replicate that in other areas of your life. And so continue to focus on the physical reality of your life. Recognize where you may be distracted. And I know for me, my distractions happen when I feel emotionally out of control or mentally out of control. It's like, let me focus on something that I feel like I have some control over. And sometimes those wind up being distractions. Like I started back to crocheting, and not that that's a terrible thing, but I recognize, girl, you got 20 million other things that you need to focus on. Let the crocheting not be the priority right now. I've got three classes that courses that I'm enrolled in that I need to focus on and finish. One, I'm 75% finished. The other one haven't even started. The other one I'm like 10%. So I know where my personal physical reality should be going. However, doing the crocheting, it's in my mind stabilizing me so that I can get to that, so that I can have a healthy balance. I need to stop listening to so many podcasts. I need to stop watching so many murder shows, true crime shows, and really transition that part of my physical reality into focusing on the vision, the goals, the dreams that I have for 2024. One of the ways that we do that is by recognizing where our mental reality is. You should know how you are doing mentally, meaning your focus, your attention, the things that you believe, the things that you worry about. Where are your thoughts going? What is taking up space? For many of us, we're worried about our finances, we're worried about our family members, we're worried about our own health. Where is your mental energy going? Where do you spend the bulk of your time? And so many of us might say, well, might work 40 plus hours. So they get a lot of my mental energy. If you're like me, even when you're at work, you're still thinking about all of the other things that need your attention. Can you carve out space somewhere in your life to release some of the mental energy, to think about things in a different way? Can you take your worries, your concerns, and your fears and transform them into wisdom, guidance, and certainty? I say you can. I know I have done it for myself, where I'm no longer looking at things in a particular way. My perception of things has changed. And so if you are watching on Facebook, Instagram, where else am I? YouTube, say hello so I know you're there. Um, if you're watching the replay, you can also leave comments and I will respond to them when I'm not, wasting my time watching a Dateline episode or listening to a podcast that I've listened to more than once. Um, Again, I'm grateful that we have this time every Sunday at 1 o'clock to really have conversations about where we are mentally, physically, emotionally, and spiritually, of course. I could not, would not, and dare not say that I was a spiritual life coach if I did not speak about how my spiritual sense, my spiritual reality really is the foundation for all of this. And we'll get there. We are going to get there. But for right now, we're going to focus on where is your mental reality? What are you worried about? What are you concerned about? What seems to be getting the bulk of your time, focus, and attention so that you can't attend to other things? And what is your perception of yourself, the world that we live in? Oftentimes, we see things that may not be what we really think they are. I am a storyteller. Doesn't mean I go around and tell people stories. It means I create stories in my mind. One thing could happen, I have an elaborate story about it. Not always centered in the truth, but centered in my perception of what I believe about myself and what I believe about others. And so gaining clarity on the way your mind works, the way you think about things, the thoughts, the beliefs, the rules that you have for yourself is essential when you are trying to plan some powerful moves in your life, because perception is everything. The level of your consciousness, what you are consciously aware of, and what you're unconsciously aware of. We'll talk about that in a minute. But what you are consciously aware of is going to drive you into places and spaces based upon the way you see it. If you think the world is a horrible place, that's what you're going to see. If you think that are not good enough, that's what's going to wind up happening. You won't be good enough because that's your level of perception. You can keep pushing, 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 but if you don't believe in yourself, your efforts may be all for naught. And so perception, your thoughts are really the central hub of everything that you do. What motivates you? What inspires you? If you had to get in your car right now, if you have one, and drive somewhere where you had unlimited gas, unlimited money, you ain't had to worry about tolls or anything like that, where would you go? Where would your mind take you? If someone dropped a load of money in your lap, where would your focus go immediately? Because somewhere within each and every single one of us, there is a concern, there is a worry, there is a fear of either not enoughness, or I need to be in this place, in this space, or I got to do this. If I don't do this, it's not going to get done. Whatever that is for you, and it doesn't have to be one thing, it can be multiple things, particularly if you are the head of your household or you are the caregiver for many. You're thinking for so many people, you don't even feel like you have time to think for yourself. If you were given the opportunity to sit with your thoughts, and we all have that opportunity every single day, whether we recognize it or not, hopefully through some of these exercises that we'll talk about later, you will create more space in your life for you to sit with your thoughts so that you're clear on what is guiding you, what is pushing you, what is inspiring you, or what is potentially keeping you in an energy of resistance. Because thoughts are energy. Energy's got to have somewhere to go. And more often than not, the energy of our thoughts show up in our behavior, show up in our emotions, show up in the places and spaces that we inhabit as humans on this spinning rock. the way you see things, the way you think about things are going to lead you into places and spaces, whether you recognize or acknowledge it or not. The ego that we all love to talk about, that we all love to demonize. We demonize the ego a lot. It's a part of who we are. It's not going to leave us. And so to demonize a part of yourself could also put you in an energy of not trusting yourself. And so I have learned to make amends with my ego. When my ego says something and I know it's not centered in the truth, I want to make amends with that because there's a reason for it. I don't want to demonize any part of my being because if I do that, then I'm not going to trust myself. It's going to be very challenging to execute a vision, a plan for your life if you don't trust yourself. Because then you're going to be relying on other people, other circumstances, other things outside of yourself to make it a reality. So trusting yourself means you got to be nice to yourself. You got to be kind to yourself. We all have egos. Every single one of us as human beings, we have egos. If we keep demonizing the dark places of our minds or the dark places of our consciousness, we're not going to like ourselves very much. And so I recognize I, again, make amends with the parts of me that think in a particular way. Sometimes I'm still thinking like a 12-year-old girl. Sometimes I think that everyone is against me. Sometimes I think that, I just don't measure up in the way that I should. All of those kind of beliefs are a part of who I am, and I know that they have a root. And so one of the things that I use in some of my courses and with some of my clients when I was taking one-on-one clients is the Told, Sold, Behold graphic, because I know that a lot of the things that I believe about myself have either been told to me, I either bought into it, or I hold on to it. And so the things that I've been told over my life, the messages from others, and it could be family, friends, society as a whole, there are beliefs that we all carry that aren't necessarily based in the truth, but we hold on to it because somebody told us, you too short, so you can't do this. You too tall, so you can't do that. You too black, you too white, we absorb all of this stuff and it gets within us. It gets into your psyche, it gets into your consciousness, and it becomes a belief. Then there are the things that we buy into. And if someone tells you something enough, you start to buy into it. Or you're telling me I'm loud? Well, then I guess I got to show up loud. Or you're telling me I'm these things? Then I guess that's who I am. And I'm going to play that part because that's what has been sold to me. I buy into it. Oftentimes you see this in young kids. You keep telling a child that they're bad enough, guess what they're going to wind up being? Bad. Because that's what you're telling them. And they want to be pleasing. If you tell me I'm bad and you keep saying it, then guess what I'm going to do? I'm going to adopt the very thing that you say I am. I'm going to buy into it. And that's going to be my character because that's what you've told me. And the world itself, society itself will tell us so many things about who we are, who we can be, who we shouldn't be, what we shouldn't do. And we buy into it all the time. You're supposed to be skinny. I was watching something on Netflix about healthy eating, and it was so refreshing to see the nutritionist or dietitian say how she hates the BMI. The BMI indicator that says if you're a particular height, particular gender, you're supposed to be a particular weight. And she's like, it's a bunch of bull. I don't know why we still use it. That thing will have you thinking you're obese. That thing will have you thinking that you're supposed to be a tiny little morsel. It is propaganda that we all buy into. And so now we believe that if I'm a particular height, I'm supposed to be a particular weight. And if I don't fall in that scale, then something is wrong with me. How many of us, have been sold on the idea that if you don't have hair down your back and if it's not bone straight, then there's something wrong with you. Or if you're not a particular size, or if you're not a particular color, all of these things that we buy into. And then we try to transform ourselves into being the thing that we bought into when we know it's not who we are. We know it's not who we are. And then there are the beliefs that we behold. We don't want to let go of them. Because if I let go of this belief, then who am I? I have often said that I never wanted to be labeled a grieving mother because I never wanted that to become my characteristic or what I rely on to get sympathy or love from people. And I'm speaking in a 100% complete, honest way, where I know that there may have been times when I have used my pain in order to ask for love because I didn't know how to ask for it right out. How many of us as kids learned how to do that? You got a lot of attention when you were sick. Oh, you got to stay home from school. You got some ginger ale. You got to eat. You really got loved upon when you were sick. And so many of us as adults, when we're sick, we behold that. That becomes a part of our characteristic because we know that that's a way that we're going to get attention, love, and affection, because no one teaches us that it's okay to say, I need to be loved. I desire to be loved. And these are the ways that I would love to be loved. No one teaches us how to do that. So we all play a part in the manipulation game, and parts of our life history, we become attracted to it. Not that we like it or love it, but we become attracted to it because it gives us some result. It gives us something. So I told y'all we had to be completely honest if we're going to get some clarity. So we all have to be completely honest on the parts of our life that we behold because we're attracted to the story and the benefit of that story. How many times, will we tell people, and I'm saying this as a birth doula that has the utmost respect for birth and for birthing persons and what they endure. But if you ask a person about their birth story, it's going to be embellished. Oh, I was in labor for 45 hours. I didn't have any epidural. I didn't, because we love the attention that comes from telling that courageous story. And birthing is no easy picnic. I'm not saying that. I'm saying, and I do it. We all do it. Oh, all my babies were over 8 pounds. We all do it. We all embellish because it gets us attention in some way. And it doesn't make us horrible people. But we do have to be honest and recognize how we do things that we don't necessarily have to do because we're already powerful. You don't have to keep telling the same story over and over again, hoping that it's going to get you some attention because you are powerful without it. All of the things that I have experienced in my life, they have made me who I am, but they are not who I am. They are not the measure of who I am. Because if they were the measure of who I am, I might look at the losses, I might look at the failures, I might look at all of the things that I've done wrong as a measurement of who I am. And the same is true for you. So be honest about the parts of your life that have now become part of your character that you rely on in order to get particular things in your life or around your life. I don't have to, I hate when I see people put particular individuals on display. And what I mean by that is there may be someone who's in need. And so I'm going to showcase myself on how I help people. The videos that look at all of the money that I give people. Look at, if you are really giving from the heart, you don't need to do all that. You don't need to do all that. There are millions and millions of people who are doing great, great work, and they never say a word about it because it's just a part of who they are instead of the part of their story that they want people to see. because it's my belief if you are truly, truly giving from your heart, you don't need to broadcast it unless you're trying to get other people to come on and support you so that the wealth is spread. But I'm very wary of people who feel like they have to record every moment of their life to show people who they are. People are going to know who you are by the way you carry yourself, by the way you think about yourself, and the way you think about others. And so these are the three things that I use when I'm holding myself accountable, when I'm saying something about myself that I know isn't true, but for whatever reason, I'm holding on to it and I have to get to the bottom of it. And I was like, did somebody tell you this? And so now you feel like this is who you are because somebody else said that's who you were. Did you buy into some particular story, some stereotype because that's what we do as humans? Or, Yolanda, be honest. Are you holding on to the part of this story because it makes you look or garner some attention because you haven't been able to ask for it in a way that you know you can? Because that's a powerful thing. When you don't have to use manipulation tactics to garner the things or attract the things that you desire, that's powerful. I don't have to pretend to be something. I don't have to act like I am someone. I am that thing. And I don't have to broadcast it 20 million times for people to see it so that they recognize it. I don't, how you perceive me is not my issue, not my concern. Hey, South Africa, how are you, my dear? And so, if we're going to get to the bottom of our mental reality, we also have to get to the bottom of what is driving the thoughts, the beliefs, the rules that we make for our life. So I have a visual aid, and I'm going to tell a story. So I talk about my age all the time. I was born in the 70s, raised in the 80s. Um, and so when I was like 10 or 11, one of the popular toys that came out were the Care Bears. And for those of you who don't know, the Care Bears are characters. They're stuffed bears. They had a cartoon. They had movies. It is a whole thing. But you could go and buy a Care Bear, and in the middle of the Care Bear's stomach was a part of their characteristic, their personality. So there were happy ones, sad ones, all different kinds of characteristics. And so when they came out, you could go to the store and get you a Care Bear. So of course, everybody wanted the bear with the big heart, the rainbow. I think it was Happy Bear, loves a lot, because that was their characteristic. So I remember telling my mother I wanted a Care Bear. And it had to be an authentic Care Bear because, of course, there were some counterfeit ones out there. And you knew it was a real Care Bear because there was a tiny heart stamped on their butt. And so my mother goes to the store, comes back, hands me the bag with my Care Bear in it. And I still have it. And this is the bear that she got me. Do y'all see that? She got me Grumpy Bear. Look how mad he is. Look at his eyebrows. And so I opened it and I'm like, this is not what I asked for. And I remember my mother saying, well, yeah, that fits your personality. So I'm 10 years old. And my mother, who loves me, who cares for me, who I think is one of the greatest women that I ever met in my entire life, and is telling me that this is how she sees me. I also remember that day she bought me a shirt and it said sassy on it. So essentially what she was telling me is I had an attitude at 10. So that's what I was told. So guess what I became? Sassy and grumpy with attitude. And I remember my brother making fun of me because I got the Grumpy Bear and he was like, "Yeah, that's you." At 10. So of course that becomes a core memory, a core belief about how other people see me. And then it becomes how I see myself. And so every single one of us, and the fact that I still have this bear, but let me tell you something else about Grumpy Bear. In the movies, in the TV show, when they needed something to get done, they went to Grumpy Bear because he was also a builder. So he could create stuff that would, you know, defend them against the enemies and all of that. So Grumpy Bear got stuff done. But the fact that this is the way that my family saw me at 10, that became part of my character. Oh, y'all think I got an attitude? Well, guess what I'm going to give y'all? Attitude. Attitude. And so that became a core belief for me for a long time because somebody told me that's how they saw me. And so now I'm going to hold on to that because I trust y'all. I love y'all. Y'all my family. You wouldn't lie to me. And if that's the way that you perceive me, well, then that's the way I'm going to perceive myself. I got an attitude. And so when my mother would ask me why you got an attitude, I'm confused. You the one said that I had the attitude. You're the one that said that I was grumpy. You're the one that says that this is the way my face looks most of the time. And now y'all confused because I'm doing and behaving exactly the way that y'all perceive me. You say I'm the bad kid. Well, guess what I'm going to be? You say I'm sassy. Well, guess what I'm going to be? I'm going to be the sassiest little kid you've ever seen. And so, how many of us have those core memories where our family, our friends, teachers, I have on many occasions pulled out a report card that said that I didn't know how to act in the classroom. And I don't remember it that way. But if that's the way the teacher perceived me, then so be it. I guess it was the truth. And so here we are. I'm confused. Why are y'all confused? Y'all have said these unsatisfactory things about me. So why are y'all confused that I'm behaving in an unsatisfactory way? I'm just as confused as y'all are. And so we as adults have to think about how some of our core beliefs originated. Did somebody tell you you didn't have power? Did somebody tell you or make you feel as though your voice didn't matter? Because if that was your experience when your brain was developing, what do you think is going on in that developed brain now? That is the juice, the soil that your brain grew in. And if you paid attention to images where you didn't see yourself, or people were constantly trying to say to you, you need to be this and not that, of course, some of your core beliefs will look like you don't have any power. You don't know what you're doing. You're not smart enough. You're not good enough because you don't have what they have, or you don't look like they look, or you didn't go to school where they went to school. And we buy into that junk every single day. Every single day, some new trend, some new thing comes down the pike. We start evaluating ourselves or comparing ourselves. And then we start to think about ourselves in ways that are not healthy and that keep us from reconnecting to our personal power. And so it is my belief, and I have this belief because I have been able to do it for myself, where I have allowed my worries, my concerns, and my fear become my wisdom. Because if something is a part of you, part of your consciousness, it's there for a reason. For those of you who are gardeners or plant parents, you recognize that when a plant is not doing well, let's say there's a yellow brown leaf, if you don't cut that leaf off, that plant is going to be expending energy trying to bring that thing back to life because it's a part of the plant. The same is true for you. Thoughts are energy. And if you have a reoccurring thought that is a part of you, like this damn bear, that is a part of you, you're going to keep giving that thing energy because it's part of who you are. It's ingrained in your consciousness. But there is a way that if something is a part of you, you can transform it to something else. Now, if it's a plant, you want to cut that leaf off so that your plant is spending all of its energy in the places of growth instead of the places of negativity and death. And if there is a thought, a reoccurring belief, which is why it was so important for us to look at our physical reality, because if you are in a toxic environment, that also contributes to the way you see yourself and the way you perceive yourself. You're either going to believe what they're saying, or you're going to be spending so much time trying to combat what they're saying that you're not focused on the power that you already have. And I go back and I will continue to go back to Nelson Mandela being in prison for 27 years and saying they never had control of my mind. They may have had control of my physical body, but they did not have control of my mind. And so if you can get to a place where you take your worry, your concerns, and your fear and see them for what they really are or what they could be, if you're willing to see it that way, you might be creating wisdom, you might be creating guidance and clarity. But first, get clear about where is your mental energy going? What are you worried about? Write down all the things. I'm worried about my weight. I'm worried about my health. I'm worried about being alone. I'm worried about my children. I'm worried about my spouse. I'm worried about who the heck the next president of the United States is going to be. Like, write it all down. Get very, very clear about the things that you are concerned about and where your mental energy is going. Because the other thing is, there is a direct correlation to how you see things outside of yourself to how you see things internally. So, if you see the world as a horrible place, somewhere in your conscious or unconscious thoughts, you believe that about yourself. What did she say? You heard me. Wherever your thoughts are going, it's a testimony of what you think about yourself. And it wasn't until we did 2 years ago, All About Love, where we read All About Love, where I had no clue. I had no clue that I was so wrong about what love is until I started to study and get very, very clear on what I thought it was and what the belief became. And so one of my hopes through this work, maybe for the next 2 to 3 weeks, is that a thought or hope or belief that you have continues to grow and evolve. And that can't happen without willingness, willing to be open, willing to see things differently, willing to see yourself differently. And so if you can continuously say to yourself, I'm willing to see it differently. I'm willing to see it differently. I'm willing to see it differently. Tell the truth. I see things as hopeless, but I'm willing to see it differently. The truth is, I don't know how I'm going to pay my bills next month, but I'm willing to see it differently. There's got to be some willingness to see it differently, because we're in there is hope, is trust, and choice. If you don't see things differently, you're not going to choose to do things differently. Let me say it again. If you don't see things differently, then you're not going to be willing to make different choices. You'll keep doing the same thing over and over and over again. And as my beloved said last week, a whole year will go by and you've done absolutely nothing. It'll look like you've been doing some stuff. It'll feel like you've been doing some stuff. But if you haven't been willing to open your mind to the possibility that you don't know what is in store for you, and that there is an expansion and growth, there is the possibility of expansion and growth in the way that you see things. Think about the way you saw the world when you were younger. Think about the way you see the world now. Has there been some growth? Hopefully there has. Like, I am willing to acknowledge, when I am seeing the world like a teenager, when I'm seeing things in ways that are just immature, I am willing to look at my mental and emotional intelligence and say, this is not reality. You're not seeing things clearly. You're seeing things at the level of your perception based upon some fear, some concern, and some worry that oftentimes is not based in truth, but the story you've created in your head. And for those of us who have a diagnosis of a mental illness, I happen to have been told several years ago that I had PTSD. It can be challenging. It can be challenging when your first reaction is a threat. Your first reaction is anxiety. Your first reaction is everything's going to fall apart. But it's my belief that you can get to a place where even if that's the first thought, it doesn't remain. But we have to be honest and be aware of when it's happening. My spiritual mother likes to call it awfulizing, where the first thing out of your mouth is, "Oh my God, that's horrible," and it may stick with you for a little bit. You might be in that place for a couple of days, a couple of hours. I'm grateful that I can acknowledge that my anxiety doesn't stay with me long because I acknowledge it. Like I said, I don't dismiss it, I don't ignore it. I embrace it and say, "Hey, you're a part of me. What's going on? What's the truth? What's really, really going on here?" And some days are better than others for that transition from the anxious moment to the peace and the calm that I prefer. Sometimes it takes a long time to get to that place, but I'm trusting. And so one of the things that I say to myself is something that you were told, something that you were sold, or where what is the root of this belief? Why do you think things are impossible when all things are possible? And I know that sounds very new agey and, but all things literally are possible if you have a belief, if you have trust, if you have an extraordinary amount of hope that all things are working for your well, your all things are working for you well. If you believe that, even a little tiny shred of that, then you may be able to transform those worries, those frustrations, those fears, those concerns. Writing them down is a healthy exercise because it lets you face the truth. I am worried that I'm not going to live as long as I would like. I am worried that I'm never going to be fulfilled romantically. I am worried that I'm never going to make the money that I need to make. Whatever the fear is, face it because you won't be able to heal it if you ignore it. Those secret fears that no one else knows about, write it down. Sometimes we're so afraid of it, we don't even want to write it down because God forbid somebody else find it. There is also a healing remedy in vulnerability and transparency. When you release yourself from the burden of secrets, release yourself from the burden of what will other people think. When you start to release yourself from that, it is a heavy burden to carry mentally. When there's this thing that no one else knows about, but it is consuming so much of your mental energy, it can be very freeing to release that. And one of the ways to do that is to write it down. So it literally, the energy of it leaves your body and is now on a piece of paper. And maybe you look at it every day. You're like, yeah, that thing is bothering me, keeping me up at night. But maybe the more you face it, the less power you give to it, similar to cutting that brown leaf off the plant. Now I'm looking at it, it's looking at me, but now maybe I can start to see it and perceive it differently. Maybe I can trust and pray that this thought, this worry that I have written on a piece of paper is not as big as I think it is. Maybe I can start to see the solution in the very thing that I have written. Perhaps if I acknowledge its presence outside of me, I will start to attract the energy of the things that will support me in facing it. Mm. Maybe if I embrace the way that people saw me, I can see it differently. So they may have seen me as grumpy and with attitude, but let me tell you what I also was, a child who spoke up for herself when necessary. Got in trouble for it a lot, but here we are, 40 something years later. That grumpiness served a purpose. That sassiness served a purpose to where I can speak up for myself It has taken some time to develop into that for me to see it differently. As they say, the stones that people throw at you make them the bricks that you stand on. And so where others may have seen me as a sad child, moody child, whatever their perception is, I can see it differently. I was expressing how I felt. I wasn't faking it to be what other people wanted me to be. I like sassy Yolanda. She needed to be sassy in particular areas of her life. I needed to learn how to be a fighter. I needed to learn how to articulate what's going on with me and not worried about how other people were going to perceive it. They may have called it grumpy. I called it clear. They may have called it being sassy. I now call it being strong. And so whatever core belief that you are carrying that is literally like a succubus taking away your power, trust that you can see it differently. Don't avoid it. Meet that thing. Because part of being powerful is looking at all parts of your life in an honest way. And that's the other graphic. Did I lose that graphic from last week? I said I was going to post it. And every time I got ready to post it, they wouldn't let me post it. So I took that as meaning it didn't need to be in those places and spaces where I was trying to put it. And so you have to be honest. You have to take accountability. And so how do you take accountability for your mood when you were 10? You can say that I didn't have the language at 10 to tell you what was going on with me. So it came out in my behavior. That's the level of accountability that I can take for a 10-year-old. But now that I'm aware of that, my accountability level is different. I can now recognize that as a fully fledged adult, I can express myself in ways that doesn't mean that I have to act out, doesn't have to come out in my behavior. I can articulate and express what's going on with me. I can be very clear when I'm not having a good day and not project that onto other people. There's got to be a commitment. I'm committed to being mentally strong. And I know that that's not something that happens in 1 hour, 1 week. It is a lifelong pursuit. And that just when I get to a particular place, there are other places to go. That's why I've called my business Evolving, because I recognize that I am evolving mentally every single day when I am open and willing to see things differently. And I got to be consistent. We have to be consistent. Again, this isn't something that happens overnight, it's continuous. And having the level of self awareness where you know something is not right or you are out of balance, there's an imbalance mentally. When your thoughts are so dark that it scares you, I trust that it motivates you to find some support and surrender to the possibility that that's not something you can do on your own. And so, for many of us, and I'm so grateful that we are in a time period where we've been talking about therapy and support, because that was not the way 20 years ago. You don't go tell people your business. You pray on it. Just praying on it is not enough. And I'm saying that as a spiritual life coach. Just praying on it is not enough. You have to surrender to the possibility that you need someone else to support you mentally until you gain some clarity on who you are and what your thoughts are becoming. Because if there are parts of us that are stuck, and I remember a therapist saying this to me a long time ago, that when you have a traumatic event, mentally you can get stuck there so that your emotional and mental intelligence does not mature. I remember when I was going through my divorce, a very good friend, a social worker, said that mentally, when it comes to relationships, you are the age you were when you got married. Now, I got married when I was 22, and now that I'm divorced and I'm 35, I'm like, I'm out here in this world like a 22-year-old. That's dangerous. That's very, very dangerous when your level of maturity is not the same as the peer group that you belong to. There might be people who are, you know, more mature because they've experienced life in different ways than you were able to. That can be dangerous because people could take advantage of you. People out here doing and saying things, and you're like, what? Why would people do that? Because for a 22-year-old, that just seems, you know, so far off that people would do that. But as a 53-year-old, I've seen some things, and I know that there are people who are willing to do and say some things for their own benefit where they may not care about your mental reality, where you are mentally. And so you might have to surrender to the idea that you need support because in some particular area of your life, maybe the developing, the maturing hasn't happened. You might be stuck. You might be stuck in the story. You might be stuck in what someone told you. You might be stuck in what you bought into. You might be stuck in what you hold is true. Doesn't make you a bad person, makes you human. And all humans, as we said earlier, have an ego. And that ego, don't demonize it, but say, sometimes you got me out here thinking I'm crazy, and I'm not. Sometimes you have me out here believing things about myself that are so far off the truth. Some of us right now believe that we deserve less than what we are receiving. Can you imagine? Can you imagine participating in something where you have to hold the belief that you deserve less? And we do it, whether it's less money at the job, less loving in your relationship, less respect in your, interactions with your family, less support from our government. We are all participating in interactions where we think it's okay to receive less. I do it. I know y'all do it. We all do it. We think it's okay that they give us horrible food in our grocery stores. We buy it. We think it's okay that they don't tell us all of the products that they put into the things that we use. We think it's okay that they can lie to us and tell us particular things are healthy when they're not. We're okay with it because we participate in it. And we don't demand for better. We remain silent. And so, because on some level we all operate that way, there's somewhere within us a core belief that that's okay to get less, that it's okay to not be respected, that it's okay to not be loved and honored, that it's okay. And it's not. And if you have enough of that going on in your life, then you are not going to be connected to your own power. I don't care who it is. You think it's okay for your mama to talk to you crazy? It's not. You think it's okay for your siblings to treat you any kind of way and you're just supposed to be okay with it? It's not. You think it's okay for the person that you stood next to and said, God, this is the person for me, to be disrespectful to you? It's not. It's not okay. It's not okay. And so last week we talked about setting healthier boundaries as part of our physical reality. That's got to be a part of your entire reality. It is not okay. But if we don't say anything or we're not connected to our own power, we may not recognize it. So we have to get clear on, why do I think this is okay? Why am I worried about what other people think? Why do I care whether or not this person loves me when they don't even love themselves? Thank you, Beyonce. She said that in one of her songs. Like, I know you couldn't possibly love me because you don't even love yourself. So, thinking about the things that cause you worry, concern, and real fear. I mean, fear to the point where you are resistant because you have no idea what could possibly happen. Where you will remain silent about your own dreams and vision because you're afraid of what could happen. And sometimes we're afraid it's going to come true and that we might not be able to uphold it. Sometimes we're afraid it's never going to happen. So why dream? Whatever the fear is, tell the truth about it. Tell the bald headed truth about it. And be willing. Be willing to be wrong. You know, people told you, oh, you can't do that. You're not smart enough, educated enough. You don't have this, you don't have that. You can't do that. Be willing to not believe it. Be open to the possibility that they don't know what the heck they're talking about. Every job that I have ever had in my entire life, and I'm thinking about all of the multiple ones, every single one on paper, I did not meet the qualifications. Whether it was the educational component, the experience component, but every single one of those jobs were given to me. Didn't have to fight for them. I walked in and I said who I was and I proved who I was. Based upon my work, those jobs, those doors were opened for me. I'm trying to think about all of the jobs. They were offered to me. I didn't really even ask for them. You cannot always believe other people's perception of what is required, what is necessary, and what is going to happen. Because if it's a part of you, it's going to bother you. It is going to bother you. So mentally, you have to be clear about what's in the way of me believing that this is true, other than the other thing that I've been believing that's not even based in truth. Why? Why am I believing I'm not the one? Why am I believing it's not possible? Why am I believing I can't achieve it, do it, create it? Why would I believe that about myself? And this thing is a part of me. I can't stop thinking about it. There has to be something going on here. Let me get clear mentally so I can see what's going on. Why I haven't touched that thing, created that thing, done that thing, put any attention and focus, commitment, consistency towards this thing that I can't stop thinking about. That feels like it's a part of me because it is. So you got to write it down. You got to ask the questions and make corrections where necessary. And if you think of correction as not about you being wrong, it's about you aligning. It's not that you were wrong. It's like, I got to line up. Oftentimes we think correction means, well, I was wrong and now I got to do. No, you were in the space of possibility and you're now increasing it. Can you look at it that way? Instead of saying, I don't know what I'm doing, can you say, I'm in the space of possibility. I haven't arrived just yet, but I'm gonna get there. Hey, Miss Sarah, how you doing? Hey, my love. It is good morning for you on the West Coast, I believe. Hey, Na. Hey, Erica. So for the next week, today, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, I want you to be willing. And we're going to do a meditation on willingness in a minute. I want you to trust that whatever thought or core belief that you are worried, that has you worried, whatever has you worried right now, tell yourself that you have the ability, that the energy that is going to this thought can be transformed into wisdom, into guidance, into clarity. I may not be able to see it now, but I am in the energy of possibility where I'm going to align with the truth and become clear. When we think something escapes us, I just don't, when we say, I don't know, you do know. You're in the realm of possibility to figure it out. I can think about 5 things right now that have me concerned. One is about my health. One is about my house. One is about my transportation needs. The other two, let's see. Oh, they appliances. Why do appliances always want to act up at the end of the year, beginning of the year, like this time? They just want to act up, and so there is a concern. It's like, how am I going to replace that? How am I going to fix that? I'm in the realm of possibility. I already know that. I already trust that the belief that it's not going to work out is already being transformed into and evolving into a solution, some wisdom, and I am aligning and attracting what is to become. I believe it. It's going to work out. I don't know what it's going to look like. I don't know who's going to be involved, but I'm open. I'm open to the possibility that I'm already so close to it. It's like when you are using your GPS and you see the dot for where you're supposed to be, and then and there's that blue circle. It's like I'm in that blue circle. I may not be on the dot, but I'm close. I'm close. I'm so close that I can feel it in my bones in my body. And mentally, that is my perception, that I'm so close that anything that I need to align and get to where I'm going is already coming towards me. As I said earlier, I've never had to fight for a particular job. Those doors were open for me. Either someone recommended me, referred me, or said, I heard so many good things about you that I had to meet you. I was on the phone the other day with someone's like, I've heard so many good things about you. I've never met this person. Who you been talking to? Believe everything they said. I can't wait to work with you. I don't even know what it's going to look like, but I'm somewhere in the possibility of that happening based upon me being true to myself and not believing that I'm some grumpy, attitudinal 10-year-old who was never going to transform into anything else. Imagine going from this to talking about love every Sunday at 1 o'clock. Please. If I only believed what other people said about me, and that became my character or my level of perception, my consciousness, I would never have evolved into who I am right now. We cannot be limited in the way that we see ourselves, in the way we think about ourselves, because it will show up in your behavior. You will be limited if you think of yourself as a limitation. But you have to be willing to be kind to yourself, to say, you know what? Today may not have been my best day where I was my best cheerleader, but tomorrow, y'all not going to be able to tell me nothing. You're not going to be able to stop me from believing in myself. And as I, have said to people and has been said to me, don't take a no from people who aren't in a position to tell you yes. So many people all over the internet telling people, oh, you can't do that. You shouldn't do that. Why would you do? You don't even know me. You don't know what I'm capable of. You don't know what I've come through. You don't know what's in me. You don't know the mental gymnastics that go on for me to believe in myself. And you think I'm going to expend all of that energy and let you tell me who I am? Absolutely not. But if you are unaware of where your thoughts are going, or if you're expending energy in worry, concern, and fear, I'm telling you, That's exactly where you're going to wind up. It's just like, the analogy I just used with the GPS. You're going to be making a left turn, going further and further and further away because you're not trusting yourself. You're not trusting your internal compass, and you're listening to what other people are saying. Why would you do that? Why would you be over there? Why are you questioning me when you don't know what's going on up in here? When you don't know what I've written on a piece of paper to myself? You don't know the truth that I face every single day. And now I have to combat that. We all have those secret thoughts about ourselves that sometimes we tell people, sometimes it's so embarrassing we don't want to tell anyone, which is why it's important to have safe spaces where you can share that stuff. A safe space could be you and a counselor, you and a therapist, you and a friend, but it better be a friend who is also going to support you in you being exactly who you are, not constantly telling, well, you should be doing this and you should be doing that and you shouldn't. Let the, I can't tell you how wonderful it is for me to be able to say to particular people what I'm thinking, and they're like, wow, that's deep. That's it. That's the only commentary. Not, oh my gosh, why would you think that? It's, well, where did that come from? Or what my beloved said to me the other day when I told him I wasn't in a good space mentally. And his response was not to fix it, not to tell me it wasn't valid. His response is, how can I support you? Whew! I love that man. And I said, I didn't have an answer for that. I said, I don't know. But when I think of something, I'll let you know. But to keep the door open of you in a bad space, okay, I'm here to support you. I'm not here to tell you what to do because I know you're going to figure it out. And allow me to figure it out in the way that I figure it out. Child, let me tell you. It is one of the things that I love the most about our relationship, that no one is trying to change anyone, but just creating space for what is. For what is. Do you know what that does to people mentally when you say, how can I support you? Instead of a judgment or a criticism, or you still on that? Yeah, I'm still on it. I don't care if it happened 20 years ago. Y'all see I still got this bear. This was 40 something years ago. You still on that? I'm gonna be on that. How about that? It's a part of me. It's a part of you. Please get into places and spaces where people allow you to be who you are until you begin your transformation into something else. Because we're all evolving at all times. Who I am today, I pray, is not the me that shows up tomorrow. It might be, I don't know, because the ego is always up to something. But let me be willing to see things differently. Let me be willing to transform. Let me be willing to have my perception of myself become grander and grander and grander. If I see myself like this today, let me see myself like that tomorrow, and let it be off the charts by the end of the week. I don't know. But let me do it in the way that feels good for me. And it might look like I'm taking 10 steps back before I come forward. If I'm not harming myself or harming anyone else, please let me transform in the way that I transform. I pray that there are spaces that allow you to do that, where someone isn't judging you and criticizing you. You still with that man? Yes, I am. And I may be with him until I can figure out who I am. And who knows, this relationship might be the catalyst for me to find and figure that out. Because I don't know about y'all, but some of the worst situations of my life have shown me who I am. It wasn't the nice and fuzzy things. It wasn't the appreciation certificates where someone gave me a certificate and it's like, oh, you did a good job. That's not where I demonstrated who I am. It's in them dark places, boy, where I was in situations that I knew I wasn't supposed to be in, but I had yet to have the mental energy to figure out who I was so that I could be in another place. And I pray that each and every single one of you who sees yourself in this right now moment recognizes what it took for you to be here, even if you don't think this is the best place for you right now. Do you know what it takes to be a human? It's not light work, particularly when you are a spiritual being who may have forgotten just how powerful you are. And we really out here trying to interact with people? With people? Now, animals, love them. But people, we out here trying to be with people. Have you seen what people are doing nowadays? Sometimes I'll scroll through the internet and I'm like, are y'all well? Are we well? We are not well. And that has to be okay. Because sometimes it plays out in different platforms and in different ways. And we think we're seeing one thing. There was a video the other day of a celebrity and all I kept thinking to myself is I hope that there are people in their life in their life in their life that recognize what might be going on, that someone steps in and says, okay, you need a break, this you need to, how can we support you? Because sometimes we see it on display when someone is not well mentally, and we all see it and we're like, well, what do we do, what do we do, what do we do? Do your work, do your own personal work so that you can help someone else. There are so many people in the comments on YouTube that do this work in different ways. Please, please absorb some of that good energy, particularly those who are so transparent. And it's a conversation that my beloved and I have. He is a spoken word artist, and he was doing a piece, and he asked me what I thought about it, and I said to him, I said, "You got to sometimes you got to bleed in front of people." And he knew what I meant, and what I mean by that is sometimes you got to let things be bloody for people to see the realness and not for shock value. But so we know that we're not out here by ourselves on an island, feeling the ways that we're feeling, thinking the ways that we're thinking. And so the piece that he did, it was deep, but I was like, you gotta go deeper because there's a blessing in that message. And so I recognize that I'm not always 100% transparent on some of the things that are going on in my life, in this space. In other spaces, yeah, because I recognize that sometimes the internet is not a safe space. And sometimes we can share in particular places. And again, people will use that in other ways. Um, but one on one, it gets real and funky. And I remember that was one of the first things my beloved said to us when we first started dating. He's like, it's gonna get real and funky. And boy, I appreciate that. I so appreciate being able to just be mentally free, where I can say something and someone isn't like, yeah, I don't know what to do with that. And so all this week, Those things that you may not be able to share with others, please write them down so that you are honest and clear with yourself. Because ain't no healing in hiding. We can't be hiding things from ourselves. Yeah, Alicia, yes. It's such bravery. And you do it, my dear. For those of you who are on YouTube, Alicia Renice, the artist, follow her. She does it. Whew. It's not always easy. Hey, my love. Ain't no healing in hiding, baby. There's none. None. You can't. And who are you hiding it from? It's going to show up. The very thing that you think you are hiding mentally is going to show up in the way that you speak to other people, the way you speak to yourself, the way you behave. If there are people in your life and you notice when there's a shift, like my beloved noticed when there's a shift in my behavior, it shows up. If you want to heal it, uncover it, write it down all this week. We've been writing down, what's taking up our physical reality, what's taking up your mental energy. What are you worried about? Yeah, somebody put that on a t-shirt. What are you worried about? And do you feel like you have spaces where you can share that safely? If you don't, you have to create it. You have to create it for yourself. And that might mean a therapist, a counselor, someone who's not going to judge and criticize. That might be your good friend, but just let me say this. If it's not a professional, ask them first if they have the mental capacity for whatever you're about to share. Because I know I have been placed and been in places and spaces, and because I'm a spiritual life coach, sometimes people assume that I have it. I don't always have it. And I have to be better at creating boundaries where people are like, I got a lot of stuff going on. And I'm in my head, I'm like, and so do I. I don't have the mental capacity right now. One of the reasons I stopped one-on-one coaching last year is because I just did not have the mental capacity, emotional capacity to deal with other people's stuff. And no professional should be trying to coach, counsel anyone if their stuff is not healed or balanced or in a place where they can manage it. For those of you who ever saw the show In Treatment on HBO, where the young lady from Orange is the New Black was the therapist. I think it was season 2, season 3, whatever. Her life was a mess. Like, it was a lot going on in her life. And here she has people coming in, but she also had a therapist that she was working with. And I thought it was such a wonderful portrayal of how those who are in the service business, who are in the helping business, you better have somebody to help you too. My therapist, I have to find a new one because our relationship, the lines got blurred, and I felt like my therapy sessions were her therapy sessions, and so I was like, yeah, I can say that I have wonderful people in my life that I can say things to, and they don't, like, it is so refreshing to not be judged or to not be labeled a particular thing when that's really not the end of the story. And so all this week, start to write what's worrying you, what's concerning you, what's taking up your mental energy, because the things that are taking up your mental energy are a part of you. Don't ignore them. Don't act like it, well, if I don't focus on it, it'll go away. As a matter of fact, the more you ignore it, the louder it's going to get. The louder it's going to get. So face it. If you know your ego is out of control, don't demonize yourself. Don't beat yourself up. Say, okay, ego, you are doing exactly what you were created to do. Let's reel it in. Let's reel it in. Let's see what's going on. Why are you saying these things? Why am I believing these things? Why is this part of the commentary that I have over my life? Let's get to a better place mentally by having honest conversations with ourselves. And if you feel like you can't, surrender to the idea that you can get help. You don't have to be ashamed. Let's be willing to open our perception of what support looks like. Doesn't mean you're weak. As a matter of fact, it's one of the strongest things that you can do for yourself. Imagine if you were a house about to topple over and you just looked at it like, well, I'll just wait for it to fall instead of let me secure the foundation. That would be the smart thing to do so we don't lose the whole house. So you don't lose your whole self. Secure your foundation. Start writing, but not to beat yourself up. This is not a beat 'em up exercise. This is, I am in the energy of possibility to heal myself mentally. Oh my gosh. I think that that's such a more powerful way of looking at it. And I trust and pray that whatever thoughts, hopes, beliefs about that you're holding about yourself, that they continue to evolve. Because it can start out as one thing and evolve into something great and grand. All right, let's meditate. Let's take some deep breaths and meditate on willingness. Having the willingness to see things differently, having the willingness to confront your consciousness, to have clarifying conversations with yourself that say, why do you believe those things about you? Who told you that? Where did that come from? Where's the truth? Where's the evidence? Where's the proof that you're not the one? Where? Oh, because it hasn't happened yet. Do you know things take time? Particularly when they are grand and beautiful. Whew. And we have to have the patience to be committed to seeing it through instead of being fearful and abandoning everything every 5 minutes. Let's take a breath on being willing to see things not not with a human perspective, with a spiritual perspective, where all things are possible. Taking deep breaths in your body. And the fact that you are able to do that is all the evidence you should need, all the evidence that is required, that there is a greater possibility for the things that you desire and dream about to become a reality. Be open to being willing to be wrong. We have been told our whole lives that to be wrong is a horrible thing. But to be wrong means that there's a possibility you're going to learn something different. I like it when I'm wrong now. It's like, oh, I don't know everything. That's a great thing. That means the possibility still exists that this thing can become a reality. Hallelujah. I don't know it all. Hallelujah. I'm not the be all to end all. Hallelujah. There are things happening for me that I can't see. As I say, there is spiritual activity going on at all times. This morning, when I was communing with my ancestors, I was like, y'all are putting in work because there are things unfolding in my life that I never thought would be a possibility. I'm so grateful. I am so grateful for the groundwork that has been laid for me and the path that I am creating on my own and the pathway that I'm creating for those coming behind me. All of the work that you are doing to have hope, to trust, it's not light work. And all the universe asks is for one more day, one more day, one more day. Just believe one more day. And you will be in the realm of possibility. But if you hide from it, you're going to be off in the distance somewhere, so far from it. If you're worried about it, that's a lot of energy. But if you see it differently, it's like, let me take this thing that I'm worried about so that I can see that there might be a solution right up in here, right up in the very concern, the very worry. So if the worry is, I don't feel well and I'm concerned that something is going on with my health, well, that should motivate you to get some answers. That should motivate you. You've already taken the first step. You acknowledge that something's not right, something's out of balance. That should motivate you to seek some answers. And I'm not saying that we haven't. Many of us who have had to deal with the medical profession have gone to get answers and we're not getting any. Doesn't mean that the answers are not there. I am in a frame of mind where I've started to write down what it is that I want to say to the doctor before we go in. Or I'm going to ask them, do you have the capacity to be in a partnership with me? Because we're talking about my body. I appreciate your expertise, your knowledge, your medical experience, but this is my body. I've had it all my life, and I'm going to have it for as long as the creator says I will have it. But this needs to be a partnership. It's not I'm coming in telling you what's wrong and then you tell me what to do. No, this is my body. So I'm going to tell you what I want, and you're going to tell me how we can get there. Start to think about how you are positioning yourself to have more power and authority over your own life. Here in the United States, we are in the midst of election time where people are saying and doing whatever they think they want to do and say for us to believe it, and we know it's not the truth. But at what point are we as a society going to rise up and say, y'all are not giving us what we need? So something else has to shift. Something else has to happen. And we're going to tell you what that is. Instead of waiting for you to tell us what we deserve, we're going to tell you what we want. And if you can't deliver it, then we will find individuals who are willing to do that. And so we keep saying the word willing, willing, willing. Willing means choice. Willing means choice. What choices are you willing to make that are different than the ones that you have made in the past? What steps are you willing to take where you might see things differently? Oh, there aren't any limits on my life like I thought. There are possibilities that I did not stumble across. Absolutely. But it takes a belief, a thought to take root in your consciousness. And it doesn't happen in resistance. It doesn't happen in hiding. It doesn't happen until you surrender to the possibility that this is not it. That there are other things going on in your life. Can you imagine and be willing to imagine in this moment that the greatest transformation of your life is taking place right now and you won't even recognize it? That everything that you are encountering in these next 7 days are setting you up for the greatest transformation of your life. It's so delicious. It's making the hair on my arm stand up. That Yolanda, you don't even recognize that you are being placed in a position where you will go through particular interactions, conversations that are going to set you up for the greatest transformation of your life. That's a real possibility, but you have to be willing to see it that way. Instead of, I gotta go to work tomorrow with them horrible people. And I ain't got time for I think it was Carol last week. I ain't got time for Carol and her nonsense. And I'm gonna do this and I'm gonna do that. And I'm not even gonna start working until I transform your perception of yourself. That Monday morning, I'm about to step into an interaction that is going to be the catalyst for the greatest transformation of my life. I don't even know who's going to be a part of it. That this week something is going to be planted in my life. And like I said this morning to my spiritual crew that holds me down when I can't hold it together, make it happen. I don't need to know what y'all about to do. I know it's about to be done. Be willing to let that be your perception this week. That something that you couldn't even create in your mind's eye is happening for you. Because we sure love to believe the horrible things. So and so is going to be president again and everything's going to be horrible. We will believe the horrible things like that. But let it be something that's going to push you towards your greatness. You're like, I don't know. I don't see it. You have no idea how the choices and the decisions that you make today are putting you in position for something amazing. If you see it that way, and if you make your choices from that position instead of worry and fear and limitation, how powerful that is. That your no means no, your yes means yes, and you know that both of them are pushing you toward something amazing. Here in Delaware, it snowed, as I said earlier, and so I was outside. I have a snowblower. I tried to get that thing started. It would not start. And I was like, well, you know what that means, Yolanda. You're just going to have to shovel. And I was like, I'm not going to make it. I'm not in the best physical shape. I'm not going to be able to do it. Well, guess who did? Exactly that. And guess who is still standing? And guess who didn't break her hip, break her back? You know, I'm out there. I spent so much time grumbling about what I couldn't do that I wasted time getting to the business of doing what my body said we're about to do. And I'm a little pained, but I'm proud of myself that I didn't stay stuck in the resistance of, well, somebody else gonna have to do it, or it's just not gonna get done. We have no idea how when we change our perceptions, the limitations go away, the resistance goes away. But if you're not clear on where the resistance is, you're gonna be stuck in it. You're gonna be stuck in it. And so remember, it isn't even your perception or someone else's or someone else's. And I love this bear so much now, I won't even let grandbaby girl play with it because I look at it differently. I used to look at it in a sad way, like, wow, my family was really, really didn't love me at all. And now I look at it like, let me tell you something about being grumpy. People leave you alone. People will leave you alone when you express, I'm not in the mood for no foolishness. And I'm so grateful that I'm at a place in my life where I can say that with a lot more love. But I don't tolerate for foolishness in my life. I am grateful that on January 21st, 2024, I don't have anyone in my life that I argue with. I don't know the last time I had an argument. Like my beloved and I were talking the other day. It's like we don't argue. We have moments. But we don't go back and forth with trying to be right. We might in a playful way, but I'm so grateful that I'm in a place in my life where I don't have a bunch of foolish. I just don't tolerate it. I don't tolerate it. I had to tell them the other day at the job, there are so many other places I could be. I'm not going to be in a place where it's a bunch of foolishness going on. So y'all got to get it together. Get it together. or I just don't engage in it, because I remember how much time I wasted engaged in being angry and surly and sassy and a period. Thank you, Maya, for loving my Care Bear. I listen, as I said earlier, Grumpy Bear, he did work. When everybody else is running around, what we gonna do? Grumpy Bear's like, I'm gonna build something. I got it. And so, whatever anyone else's perception of you may have been, you take that thing and stand on it. Stand on it and transform it into something that's for your good, for your benefit. I'm going to read a prayer like I did last week. The name of the book is Get Over It. Ooh, where are my glasses? Uh-oh. Oh, here they are. Um, because I also recognize what my mother was saying when she bought me that Care Bear, that I was stubborn. And I will own up to that. I was a stubborn child. People would tell me to do stuff, and I'm also an Aries, so it comes with the territory. But people would tell me to do stuff, and I'd look at them like, yeah, I don't want to do that. A surefire way for an Aries not to do something is tell them to do it. We're not going to do it. So I am going to read from Ian Van Zant's Get Over It. And this is a prayer and affirmation to neutralize, heal, and eliminate stubbornness, because whatever you want to call it, resistance, stubbornness, unwillingness, it's getting in the way of our power, and it's getting in the way of our mental capacity to evolve. You know, when you believe something, and even if somebody presents you with the truth, you're like, nope, that's the way that I've always done it, so that's the way that I'm going to do it. Well, honey, you're not going to have anything different in your life if you're not willing to see things differently. So, hey, fellow Aries, we don't like nobody telling us what to do. And so that was the other commentary. My mother was, saying, you're stubborn. I own up to it. I was a stubborn child, and in many ways, I can be a stubborn adult. But I recognize now how my unwillingness to be flexible, my unwillingness to see things differently, keeps me limited. And so here is a prayer and an affirmation to neutralize, heal, and eliminate stubbornness for all, whether you're Aries or not. If there is some resistance in your life where you are not willing to see things differently, where you are mentally stuck, this prayer is for you. Whew, precious and divine Holy Spirit, I acknowledge that I am one with you. I acknowledge that you are my wisdom and my peace. I now lift to you the broken places in my mind so that they might be healed. I now lift to you the broken places in my mind so that they might be healed. Mm. Create in me a gentle and cooperative spirit. I surrender all forms of stubbornness. I now lift to you the broken places in my heart so that they might be healed. Create in me a gentle and cooperative spirit. I surrender all forms of stubbornness. I now lift to you every mistaken thought, past and present, that has distorted how I see myself. Create in me a gentle and cooperative spirit. I surrender all forms of stubbornness. I now lift to you every feeling I have held, past and present, that has polluted how I feel about myself. Create in me a gentle and cooperative spirit. I surrender all forms of stubbornness. I now lift to you my behaviors, past and present, through which I have labeled myself as wrong. Create in me a gentle and cooperative spirit. I surrender all forms of stubbornness. I now lift to you all experiences, past and present, that I have deemed as bad. Create in me a gentle and cooperative spirit. I surrender all forms of stubbornness. I now lift to you every choice and every decision that has taken my life away from the path of your will. Create in me a gentle and cooperative spirit. I surrender all forms of stubbornness. I now reclaim the truth of my being in you. I now reestablish the power of my being in you. I ask to be restored to the fullness of my identity in you with a calm, cooperative, and gentle spirit. I ask, I allow, I accept as the Holy Spirit becomes this truth in every fiber of my being. I let it be, and so it is. And the affirmation, who I am, is anchored and secured in the flexible, cooperative, kind hearted, and receptive presence of the Holy Spirit. We got to stop being stubborn and resistant and placing limits where there are none. And so, my prayer for all of us is a cooperative, flexible spirit that will allow us to see things differently. They may have called you grumpy. They may have called you stubborn. They may have called you angry, but you know who you are. And you can take all of that commentary and you could be resistant to what is possible. But I'm sitting here holding a bear that's got rain clouds of hearts and telling you that that's not who I am anymore, that I have been able to transform that part of me into someone who seeks love, creates love, understands how love is the healing agent of all pain and suffering. But it will not happen if you are resistant to it. It will not happen for you mentally if you don't believe in yourself and believe in the possibility that you can have a peaceful mind, that you can have a peaceful spirit. And we took a look at, what was going on with us physically. Now let's take a look, an honest look at what's going on with us mentally. Doesn't make you a bad person if you are struggling mentally. It makes you human. But it also puts you in a position where you may be able to support yourself if you are willing to surrender to the idea that you might need support from an outside source, or you have to see yourself differently. You can't hold on to that stuff. You can't hold on to those beliefs that see you as anything other than what God has created. I am so grateful. We almost went 2 hours today, y'all. That was purposeful, and I'm grateful for it. As I said, on YouTube, there's some powerful, powerful powerhouses in the comment section. If you want to expand your spiritual landscape, then I would offer you touch base with some of these individuals, touch base with what's going on with you this week. Write it down, tell the truth. As they say, tell the truth and shame the devil. Tell the honest truth of where you are mentally. There's a young person, and everybody's young to me. I don't know how old this individual is, that I follow on Instagram. I can't think of his name. I think his name is Michael. I think their name is Michael. And he is a librarian. They have such a gentle spirit. And they just posted that they are not doing well mentally. You have no idea how much courage it takes to say to people you don't know, I'm not doing well mentally. It takes a lot of courage to say it to the people that you do know, because you don't know how they're going to receive it and what they're going to do with it. But if you are not doing well mentally, or if you're not in the space that you would like to be, then I offer that you reach out. Doesn't have to be someone you know, but someone that you feel safe with. Someone that has a proven track record of being a safe space. It is one of the most courageous things that you can do for yourself mentally, physically, spiritually, and emotionally. Because if you have the awareness that there is an imbalance, then that increases the possibility of you being open to receiving the support that you need. I love you. I love us. I trust that you are loving on yourself this week. Giselle, put it on a t shirt. Yes. I wish the same for all of us, that we are more cooperative with our spirit, that we are more cooperative with the Holy Spirit, that we are more courageous in the way that we see ourselves and that we trust ourselves more. I cannot tell you how freeing it is to know that what you are thinking is expanding. I am soon to be, in a couple of months, 53. And the fact that I know I'm going to learn more, expand more, and grow more excites me more than anything. That this is not it for me. This is not it for any of us. And if this old stubborn Aries can be open to the possibility of learning something new and taking instruction from other people, I'm telling you, there is hope for us all to be more cooperative, be more flexible, and to step out of the energy of resistance and into the energy of possibility and hope. I love, 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 love y'all. Thank you for spending time with me today. Um, I hope that this week is gentle for you, but if it is not, trust that gentleness is in your future. I love you so, always and forever. She is one of my biggest cheerleaders. You ever have someone that no matter what you do, even if you like, I ain't like it, is going to cheer you on? That's that lady right there. And to have those type of people, that type of energy in your life is essential, because we have enough of the other people criticizing, judging. We don't need that unless we know it comes from a loving place. I love y'all. I gotta go talk to my man. Have an incredible rest of your Sunday. And my prayer is for any of us who are being challenged right now mentally. I pray that you find some peace this week, no matter how small the moment might be for you. Even 5 minutes of peace can move and make wonders in your life. And so I pray that for you. And if there are individuals who are creating an energy of toxicity around you, please make a choice and a decision to remove yourself or disengage in whatever way you can. Sometimes you're living with those folks and you can't just, turn them out, tune them out, but try to disengage as much as possible. I love y'all. I love us. Next Sunday, we're still going to be talking about our mental reality and what it is. And still we right. Amen. Amen to that. Amen to that. Um, I love y'all. Have an amazing rest of your Sunday. And we'll be back next Sunday. Love y'all. Bye bye.